Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, I need some serious prayer. I this past year, I had a lot of drama in my life, all because of one singularity, cataclysmic event in my life, I would say. What had happened was, let's go back to early 2024. I was teaching at Maricopa College's dream job. And my art career, I was starting to actually make money at my art career. I was starting to make important connections. In fact, part of the reason I even got involved in the Lego ideas is that I was at an art show with all of my new friends, and through some discussion, it led up to that, right? Even though I started with a completely different art medium, I am involved in Legos now and a few other kinds of art. And I had a romantic life with myself, actually. You go back and watch what I did. I think I even shot some videos, Valentine's Day 2023, or maybe it was 2024. Uh, Plenty of vacations, romantic getaways with myself. All good. I was living the dream at the time. And then came July 2024. I got a really bad case of COVID with long term symptoms. I encourage you to Google or search historical weather of Phoenix. Just look up 4th of July or any other day in July. I distinctly remember the 4th of July being really hot because not only was it the 4th of July, but it was the 90-year anniversary since we lost Mary Curry. I distinctly remember morning that day, and it was 110 degrees. And not long after that, I got the long term COVID. And Society cast me out. First of all, I almost dehydrated in that apartment. I was living in a studio apartment in northern Scottsdale. Look up where Anthem, Arizona is, between Scottsdale and Anthem. And I almost couldn't get out of my bed to go get water, dehydrated, disoriented. I don't remember how I got into my car and drove 3 miles to a local Fry's grocery store. You can Google Fry's in either Scottsdale or Anthem just to get a feel of the vibe. I can't remember which side it was on, but get a vibe of the store if you want. I don't know how I made it to the store. And when I got there, there was nowhere to sit down. I desperately needed to drink some water. It was 115. And I sat on a mobility scooter, which is uncomfortable enough. If you shop at your local groceries or Walmart has plenty of them too, so you know what they look like. And the security guard there was very upset, and he didn't even start out with "Good morning" or anything like that. He started out with, "Sir, you can't sit there. That's not a seating area." Now, keep in mind, dehydrated, disoriented, 110, just recovered from COVID, long-term symptoms, didn't have active COVID. Now, I responded to him. I apologize. I'm just recovering from COVID. Keep in mind, when somebody's barking like that, a lot of times their ears are tuned off as well, right? I had another situation where had he just listened for 2 minutes or 2 seconds, he could have comprehended what was going on, right? It was a different situation. But I had a situation where somebody would leave a comment if this has ever happened to you. Somebody's so angry that all they want to do is scream. But if they had only listened for 5 seconds, they would have understood what was going on. What do you do when something like that happens? I'm a magnet for situations like that. I now I told him that I'm sorry, I'm just recovering from COVID. He probably didn't even want to listen, but the word COVID probably woke him up. Ooh, COVID, and he walked away. You got to remember, had I said anything other than COVID, I doubt he would have cared very much. I just got out of the hospital after chemotherapy. Oh, who cares, right? I just had a mental health issue, right? My girlfriend left me, and I just uh, I just suffered a robbery. Somebody stole my car just outside in the parking lot. He probably could have cared less about that. I guarantee you. Maybe we could give that a try at some point, right? You could try it this summer if you want to. Right? I wouldn't recommend doing it. You might get hurt, right? But that put a big hole in the idea that I could have a relationship with myself and work my dream jobs. It put a big hole in that plan. And so the next thing I did was to ask around, see if anybody would set me up on a blind date of some sort. And it took me 4 months to get anywhere with that idea. In November, my friend at church set me up on a blind date. And you remember, I gave him a 1 kilogram silver bar. And I was going to give one of my I had another friend here who set me up on a blind date with his cousin. I was gonna mail him some of my indium art, and he said, "Don't bother with it. Yeah, this is a team effort." He said something to that effect. We all benefit from this. But how did these dates go? They went very well. You got to remember though, none of these dates move in a straight line, right? In between where I came from last November and today, there were plenty of ups and downs. There was a lot of uncertainty. There was even ghosting. Not all of these dates have survived to a second date, right? And so the emotional roller coaster and turbulence. Give you an idea of the level of turbulence. I got a bad performance review at GCC over this. What had happened was I my boss asked me what would be a good day for her to observe my class. I told her, uh, why don't we do it as soon as possible so I can use the feedback. The truth is, I wanted to get it done with. And then I forgot about the day of the review, and I went there unprepared. Papers were flying everywhere as I was going to the classroom. I probably wouldn't have been so unprepared if I remembered the day of the review. And then I got kicked out of my apartment. What had happened was I was living with, believe it or not, the my friend had set me up on a blind date. Her ex boyfriend owned a place and rented a room to me. In retrospect, that probably wasn't the brightest idea, but at the time, I thought it would be a great way to get insider knowledge about her. That's what I was thinking at the moment. Sometimes I get overly optimistic. Overly optimistic views is what always gets me in trouble. It's why I allowed somebody to steal my wallet yesterday because I got too complacent, right? I thought, oh, Taiwan is safe, because you go out 2 in the morning. There's still plenty of people walking alone. I went to the hiking trail at 2 in the morning a few weeks ago, and not only did I feel safe, but other people went there alone too, safe, right? And overly optimistic views like that are what often get me in trouble. And so I I trusted my roommate. The first warning sign was one day I was really tired. I had come home from school, and before I knew it, I put my stuff down and I collapsed on the couch. Dating life has a tendency to wear me out like that. When I woke up, my roommate commented on something that I had written down on a sheet of paper in my belongings, and I thought, gee, I didn't give you permission. I mean, it was not that serious. What had happened was I wrote a parody song for the anniversary of uh, what was it? It wasn't. Oh, wait, which anniversary was that? It was one of Mary Curry's anniversaries. I wrote a parody song, and he had commented on lyrics that I had written. Not the end of the world. After all, I shared. That's something I would share with him. but I didn't give him permission to dig through my stuff, and it kind of bothered me. But at the same time, he didn't see anything damaging, so I kind of let it slide. I mean, go ahead and grill me on that, but I kind of let it slide at the moment. One day, I had finally gone out with this girl that I had been hesitating on. What had happened was I had a former student who had weird feelings for me, and I didn't know how to deal with that. And I liked her as well. And one day, I was trying to talk her into major. She hadn't decided her major yet. Talk her into coming back to math. She had taken college level algebra and is now was now studying criminal justice. And so I brought her to our department to take a look at a few things, posters, and including a math art piece that I had hung outside my office. But by the end of that interaction, I was completely drained. Like I said, I suck so badly that any interaction with any girl will drain me. Earlier today, I missed my subway stop on my way to my grandmother's home because I had a conversation with a girl on the subway. We exchanged some Instagram information, and then I sat down and I fell asleep. I was so drained from that. And leave a comment if you've ever been that anxious. Uh, it's not unusual for me to completely drain out after an encounter. I can't tell you how many times after a date. And so if I'm driving the girl home, I drive her home and then I pull somewhere just to crash. Or if she has her own ride there, sometimes I crash right outside of the restaurant or the bar or wherever we decided to meet. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. Uh, uh, anyway, I had gone to a local grocery store on the way home from school that day, and finally they had decided to restock my favorite brand of noodles. I have been waiting weeks for it. You know, I have very particular eating habits. A lot of times, if I buy every pack of whatever I want from the store, in my mind, I have to ration it until the store restocks, right? It's not unusual for me to have to ration food unless I have a trip somewhere, right? Sometimes, like for example, coming here to Taiwan, gotta stock up on everything that I need before my next trip to Taiwan, or even if I go to Las Vegas, or when I get to San Francisco, if there's time to get out of the airport security, sometimes there's a big layover. Sometimes I go to the local grocery and stock up because I know when I get home, stores can be slow to restock the stuff that I want because I'm very particular. And so now I've been drained out of all my mental energy due to two very difficult subjects for me: eating disorders and dating anxiety. Those are two very difficult issues for me. A lot of people don't realize that. I get home and my roommate decides to bother me about something ridiculous again. He's just going off the handles about something that I can't even control. He's telling me about something that happened at his work. He's telling me about a water heater he has to fix that I have no idea how to do. And when I told him, can you please can we take a 30-minute timeout? I haven't eaten all day. And when he heard that, that was so juicy for him to just deny me that opportunity. Long story short, that was the final straw, and everything just ended there with him. Now, looking back at it, I missed a lot of red flags. First of all, I was completely off when I assumed that I could use him to get insider information. And second, I allowed too many things to slide for too long that by the time I decided I wanted to put my foot down, it created some misunderstandings. But I'm going to, you know, I really do love my romantic relationship with myself. If it weren't for the fact that we don't have a good safety net when things are down, I would have stayed that way. I really would have. It doesn't help that I'm not all that financially well, right? It's not like I could hire a lot of outside services when those things happen, right? Well, remember, I got COVID during a heat wave. To give you an idea how flat broke I was, this was last summer, but I I was running low on gas. Otherwise, I would get in my car and idle the car just for the air conditioning, right? I was trying to put everything into my art career, starving artist, and thank God I replaced the car. That car was also giving me a lot of headaches. I was driving a Kia Forte. It had. I distinctly remember the day I hit one light second on the car. I remember thinking, gee, if only I had put a dash cam on there, recorded the entire journey of the car, and then maybe fast forwarded up to play in 1 second. I could see what light looks like, right? Uh, that's how, and then the car died not long after that. I got a Honda Civic now, but I want to get rid of my car when I go home. Find some way to live somewhere where I don't need a car because that's been a big source of stress for me. The last couple of weeks with no car, I feel like I can handle anything that comes my way. After all, a lot of things have happened this week. Earlier, when I filed the police report today, the police officer remembered me from that whole passport saga last week, and he was like, "How are you keeping it all together?" He probably thought I was fabricating all the insurance fraud or something because of how calm I was. And I told him, you know what? At least we're here in Taiwan. Back home in the U.S., a lot of this stuff is much more routine, plus a lot of daily stresses. From we got to drive cars in the U.S., and the officer even agreed with me on that. Please pray for me. I'm gonna go to that temple to consult with the God of love again because my my love life is what has created all of this chaos. I have uh, I have a romantic relationship with myself, but our societal substrate isn't very conducive to that. I was actually just watching an old episode of Unsolved Mysteries. This African American guy had in the 1960s was involved with a white girl, and the parents didn't approve, and they separated, and he was looking for his long lost children, and I was thinking to myself, that reminds me of another relationship in my life that society hasn't approved just yet. And, you know, I think part of the reason that there's so much prejudice against singles and not much talk about it is single bias is one of the few biases where if you had a lot of money, it wouldn't bother you so much, right? You can't say the same thing about racial bias, right? If you had $10 million and you were African American, you weren't accepted. You can't really buy your way out of that, right? If you were gay and you weren't accepted for being gay, you can't easily buy your way out of that, right? Ditto with disabilities, but with single, money can quickly buy your way out of all the disadvantages of being single, right? So that I think that's part of the reason why there hasn't been so much movement on it. Leave a comment if you feel I'm right or wrong about that. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum.